GOP punches back in election security fight. Republicans are pushing back on Democrats after sustaining more than a week's worth of attacks over stalled election security bills. GOP senators this week countered accusations from across the aisle that they are thwarting all efforts to secure the 2020 elections, arguing instead that Senate Democrats are abandoning the legislative process, treading on states' rights and misleading voters about what their legislation would do. When other Republicans pointed to a recent all-member Senate briefing, given by senior administration officials on election security efforts, as their reasoning for not wanting to pass election bills. When Senior John Kennedy if the comments from GOP senators came as Republicans are attempting to reframe the election security debate by explaining their rationale for consistently blocking related bills, despite warnings from former special counsel Robert Mueller that the Kremlin is actively planning on a repeat performance of its 2016 election interference. Top Democrats, including Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer DNY, have repeatedly Senate Democrats have directed blistering attacks at Republicans, particularly Majority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, for refusing to. The moniker even came up on the debate stage this week, when former Housing and Urban Development Secretary Julian Castro referred to Moscow. McConnell hit back during a floor speech this week, calling the nickname and allegations akin to modern. The bill McConnell was referring to was passed by the House in June. The bill includes. Langford argued that since states are constitutionally given the authority to run their elections, they should fund security improvements. Congress appropriated $380 million to states through the Election Assistance Commission last year, much of which has been used to put in place cybersecurity enhancements and replace outdated voting equipment. Almost 24 Democratic state attorneys general sent a letter to Congress asking that lawmakers appropriate sustained funding to states for election security purposes. A bill sponsored by Democratic presidential candidate Senior Amy Klobuchar, but in some instances, funding is not the issue blocking consideration in the Senate. H.R. 1, known as the For the People Act, has been stalled in the Senate ever since it was passed by the House in March on a party line vote. McConnell has labeled. Langford argued that bill has little to do with stopping foreign interference in elections. Some of the provisions with Senior Roy Blunt RMR. One bill that is positioned to garner bipartisan support and potentially break the deadlock is the Secure Elections Act, backed by Langford and Klobuchar in the previous Congress. The measure failed to. The two senators are looking to reintroduce the bill this Congress, and according to Langford are only working out verbs. The previous iteration of the bill would strengthen cybersecurity information sharing between the federal government and state and local election officials, while also requiring all jurisdictions perform post-election audits to verify election day results. While McConnell has not yet been asked to support the bill, Langford said that last year the majority leader was not opposed to the concept of the legislation, adding that he has been receiving technical. But in the meantime, Langford said Senate Democrats are the ones spreading disinformation when it comes to election security legislation.
Raindrop, truck top, smoking, no cooking, the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that.